Yo, what's up, Broncos country? How's it going tonight, guys? This is Eddie with Rocky Mountain Blitz. So, I wanted to get on here tonight and make this quick video and talk about the story that came out over the weekend that Woody Page came up with. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff about it, people talking about the story that Woody Page came out with, with Bo Nix. Should he be the starter? And this, I think, is not really so much he should be the starter week one in Seattle. What I think it is that he's expecting Bo Nix to be the starter for training camp, to start training camp and beyond. So let's get into this. So Woody Page wrote this article over the weekend talking about, going over, how Bo Nix, he played so well, in college, all this and that. He listed a bunch of stats and pretty much saying that Bo Nix should be the starter. The Broncos should not wait. They should just go ahead and do it and be done with it. And he's pretty much like, why are you pushing it back? If Bo Nix is your guy, which he clearly is, because you drafted him 12th overall, you drafted him for a reason to, be your future. It only makes sense to give Bo Nix the starting role now and move forward and give him all the live reps as possible with the first teamers to get him ready for week one. Now, a lot of people disagree with this. A lot of people do agree with this, but my stance is it's the same as it's always been. He needs to be the starter. I agree with Woody Page 110%. Um, and the reason why I will break down the reason why I, also believe he should be instantly the starter is because a couple of reasons. One, and all these reasons I have listed off before. One, he is your future guy. You drafted him 12th overall and, you moved on from Russell Wilson. You took the dead cap hit. You got Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham, which everybody in Broncos country, everybody outside of Broncos country knows that Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson are not starters. Backups, maybe. Zach Wilson, I wouldn't even consider a backup. The guy's garbage. Like, I understand why Sean got him. Sean didn't bring Zach Wilson here to be, he didn't bring him here as a reclamation project. He brought him here as a security blanket in case during the draft at pick 12, if they weren't able to get the quarterback, whoever at the time, we didn't know who it was, whether if it was Bo Nix, Michael P. Nix, Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy. We didn't know. But Zach Wilson was the security blanket for Sean Payton. That way, if the draft came in and all the quarterbacks were gone by pick 12, they could be like, okay, well, we got Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham. We can roll with these two this year, since we know we're probably not going to be very well, or it's an evaluation year. See what you have with the talent on the roster and all this and that. That's the reason why they got Zach Wilson. Sean Payton did not bring Zach Wilson in to be the 110% starter. Like, even if they wouldn't have got Bo Nix, I believe Jared Stidham would have started. Jared Stidham would have beat out Zach Wilson easily, and Zach Wilson would have been the backup if we wouldn't have got Bo. But the fact is, you got Bo Nix. He is your future, and you spent the 12th overall pick on him. And the fact that him and Jared Stidham are literally the only two competing for the number one, Zach Wilson, he'll be lucky, in my opinion, to even make the roster by the start of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Wilson was cut by the third preseason game. The guy is garbage. From what we heard in mandatory minicamp and OTA, Zach Wilson looked like garbage. Like, he was throwing picks. Like, I can go back and talk about one instance I heard that I think it was 7-on-7s where it's okay for you to throw interceptions. You just need to stay in the pocket, throw the ball. And if you throw a pick, you throw a pick. That's the whole point of it. That's what you're working on. You're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Zach Wilson didn't just he didn't throw a pick, but he did the worst thing you could have done on 7-on-7s and OTAs. He literally hiked it, and you ain't got to worry about getting hit because it's OTAs. They're not hitting you. He literally did 1, 2, looked at his reads, and then he bailed out. He ran out. It's like, dude, no, you don't do that during 7-on-7s. So Zach Wilson has not learned. He's been in the league, 3-4 years? He's not going to be the starter. Like I said, he'll be even lucky if he makes the roster by the time the regular season starts. So I'm not worried about Zach Wilson. He is no threat to Bo Nix at any capacity at all. Jared Stidham, during OTAs and mandatory minicamp, we kept hearing, Jared Stidham won this day, because he had one better throw than Bo Nix. He threw the ball downfield and he had a big completion, whatever. But basically, everybody was saying the same thing. They're even. Bo Nix and Jared Stidham are even. And that, to me, right there, already in itself, you should name Bo Nix the starter. If Jared Stidham, a guy that's been in the league for 4 years or 3 years, I can't remember which, 3 or 4 years, he's been in this system for a year, is looking just like Bo Nix, a guy that is a rookie, first year in the system. If they're even at all, Bo Nix should get the nod easily right there. Like, it doesn't make sense to start your guy. Like, the only way this would make sense to not start Bo Nix is if Bo Nix looked terrible. Like, I wouldn't really say terrible. I would say he does not look as, solid as Jared Stidham. But the fact that they were even during OTAs and mandatory minicamp should tell you everything you need to know. Like, in my opinion, even if you want to believe what the reporter said, that, he just, he won the day, he had a couple better plays. Jared Stidham looked a little bit better than Bo Nix. Like, you still give it to Bo Nix. The reason why is because Jared Stidham's not going to get any better. He's not. There's no physical way Jared Stidham's going to get any better. He is what he is. He's a good backup. I'm not going to lie. I like Stidham as a backup. He's good. I'm not bashing him like I would bash Zach Wilson because he is a good backup. But the thing is, unless he is leaps and bounds better than Bo Nix, or Bo Nix is just, you can tell he's going to need a lot of time to develop, then yeah, you would name Jared Stidham the starter. But if that's not the case, like if he's not leaps and bounds better than Bo, and Bo is just like, you can just tell even in OTAs and, mandatory minicamp that it's going to take him maybe a year or two to actually, get to Jared Stidham's level, then yeah, you start Stidham. But the fact that they were even, and saying Jared Stidham won those days, saying Jared Stidham's a little bit better than Bo Nix, that's nitpicking. You're nitpicking certain things. Because as we all freaking know, Russell Wilson, he has a beautiful deep ball. Like, he'd still throw one of the best deep balls in the game whenever he gets outside the pocket. And that's understandable. Jared Stidham had one great deep ball, which is pretty much wanting mandatory minicamp and OTAs. Sean Payton doesn't care about that. Sean Payton cares about, dicing up the freaking defense, short, intermediate routes, across the middle, timing routes, all this and that. And the fact that Bo Nix was just even with Jared Stidham and that kind of stuff, right there, that indicates that Bo Nix should be your starter. Now, moving on from that, the other reason why I think Bo Nix should be the starter is because I've said this a million freaking times. This is an evaluation year for the Broncos. Like, maybe Sean Payton doesn't see it as, well, I think he does, but he's still going to try to win. That's what I'm basically saying here is Sean Payton is still going to try to win. If he can make the playoffs with this team this year, Sean Payton, I'm sure that's his goal, is to make the playoffs, but also it's an evaluation year. Sean knows that. He's got to see what he's got on the team. Like, they got a lot of contracts coming up next year. They got $100 million plus in cap space, all their draft picks back. Like I said, Williams is going to have to get paid next offseason. Surtain, we just paid the belly. You got Garrett Bowles, you got to figure out what you're doing with him. Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper, excuse me. All these players are coming up on contracts. So you got to evaluate the younger talent on the roster. Like Surtain, that's one thing. You're going to pay him. Williams, are we going to pay him? That's the big question. Like, that's a big question to me. Are we going to pay Williams? Or is Audrey Estime going to be that new horseback? Bruising backer that's just going to freaking bulldoze over everyone. If they can get that, if they can get out of Estime what they got out of Javonte pre-injury, and they could save themselves a couple million, and you got the guy on a rookie deal, of course they're going to keep him. So it's about seeing what he has. Cortland Sutton, another one. Like, we've all heard the news about Cortland Sutton being out of, voluntary, all that stuff, OTAs and everything this offseason. They're still disputing. They're still talking, contracts with Cortland Sutton. The Broncos are trying to see where they can get to make Sutton happy. And the fact that it's still a conversation, they have not given him the money. If Sutton's unhappy by next offseason, he's going to be gone. So you got to figure out what you got in Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin. You got to figure out what you got in these guys. You got to see if Tim Patrick can stay healthy for a whole year. You know, so you got guys you got to evaluate, like especially the two younger guys I just mentioned, Franklin and Mims. You got to evaluate them and see what you have in them. Same with Lucas Kroll. Like Dulcich, the thing I just watched, he was, he's not on the pub list, but now he's got like I think a foot injury or something. And this is going to be a big year for Lucas Kroll because if Dulcich ain't ready to go, Lucas Kroll, I mean, you got Adam Troutman, but Lucas Kroll is going to be that guy we're going to have to find out if he could be our tight end one of the future. And, you got to figure that out. Same with center. You got to figure out who the center piece is going to be. Like, you got your right tackle, you got your right guard, and your left guard. You got those guys signed for at least another 2-3 years. You got those two guys, but you got to figure out center. You got to figure out who your starting center is going to be. So, whether if that's Forsyth, if that's any of the other guys that are on the roster, and tackle. Like, this is another year. Like, I understand Bowles is 33. We already know what he is, but this is kind of a prove it year for him too. Like, can he have another solid season like he did last year? And if he does, the Broncos are probably going to want to pay him and keep him on the roster because left tackles, offensive linemen in general, hard to find. So, they got to figure that out. Baron Browning, Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper. These are guys that are going to want to get paid here in the next year or two. And they got to figure out if these guys are the studs that we need them to be. Same with Jonah Ellis. We got to figure out if he's the guy. Corners. You got Drain. You got Moss. You brought in Levi Wallace. You got Damari Mathis, who I don't know if he could be the number 2, but you got corners that you got to figure out, young guys that you got to figure out if they can be the number 2 corner behind Surtain. Like, you got, and Jonas Griffith, honestly, middle linebacker, because Singleton, I think, has got one more year left on his deal. You brought in Barton. You lost freaking Sanders for pretty much almost half the year already. So this is an evaluation year. The Broncos have to go through the roster and go through these young guys this year, give them plenty of playing time, and figure out who they're going to pay and who they're not going to pay, who they're going to let walk and who they're going to let keep. They got to figure this stuff out. And if it's an evaluation year, I'm not saying you can't try to compete for the playoffs. By all means, go ahead, try, do it. I mean, I'm not going to argue against the Broncos trying to make the playoffs. But this is an evaluation year for them to find out what the young talent on the roster is. And that includes Bo Nix. Like, they need to find out quick with Bo Nix. Like, I'm not saying Bo Nix needs to turn into Patrick Mahomes or Peyton Manning after his first year. I'm not saying that. But you got to see if the kid can handle it, Hackett in the NFL. You got to see if he's making any development or any strides in the NFL. Delaying him being the starter, all that's going to do is just keep you wondering, like, okay. And like, even if you're like, okay, Bo Nix, we don't know if he's ready, whatever. And you start him halfway through the season, you only get half the season to evaluate him. Like, it'd be nice to have a full year sample size of Bo Nix. Be like, okay, he's making improvements, or no, he's not making improvements. Is he the guy of the future? Is he not the guy of the future? Do we need to go back to the well, or do we have the guy? Like, it makes zero sense to me not to start Bo Nix, even to start a training camp. Because, like, Bo Nix, you have to give him every opportunity. And whenever I say that, that means name him the starter for training camp. Like, be like, he's the starter. We've already decided he's the starter. Give him all the reps in preseason, training camp, with the ones to earn that, or to learn, or get that chemistry down, get the timing down, get everything down, give him as much time as you possibly can to get him ready for week 1 against Seattle. Like, that is the smart move. Like I said, unless Bo Nix, and you can name him the starter right now. And, if he turns out to be, bad, or really not bad, but just he looks like he's maybe a little bit behind, you could be like, okay, keep working with him, but as long as he's showing some improvement, but he's looking bad, which is exactly what's going to happen. Bo Nix is not going to be bad. If anything, out of all the quarterbacks, I think he's even going to be better than Caleb Williams this year, honestly. Yes, I understand. Caleb Williams, he has all these shiny new weapons in Chicago. He's got Keenan Allen. He's got Roma Dunze. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Swift. He's got Cole Kmet. But the Bears did nothing with that offensive line. That offensive line is still garbage. Caleb Williams is going to be running around with a chicken like his head cut off back there behind that offensive line this year. Jaden Daniels, yeah, they got Terry McLaurin and a solid solid running back, but their offensive line's not very good either. So I don't think Jaden Daniels is even going to be that great. Drake May, really? One, I don't think he's going to start the season. And two, even if he did, they have no weapons. They have no offensive line. That team is in a full, they're even in more of a rebuild than we are right now. They have no talent on that roster, offensive wise, besides maybe Drake May. And reports coming out of Patriots camp is that he's going to need some time to develop. So there you go. JJ McCarthy, from what I heard, it's like earlier in the offseason, Sam Darnold's probably going to wind up starting the season. McCarthy's going to be on the bench. So there you go. And Michael Penix, we already know what's going to happen. If Kirk Cousins is ready and he's healthy by the start of week one, that's the Falcons' idea. They think Kirk Cousins is going to be ready, and I think they only drafted Penix to have a quarterback of the future because they don't know how many more years Kirk Cousins is going to last, especially after his injury from last year. So, out of all the quarterbacks I just mentioned, Bo Nix is the one that's going to have probably the most success in his first year. Like I said, Penix is probably not going to start. JJ McCarthy's probably not going to start. Drake May is not going to start. The only other two quarterbacks out of this year's draft that are probably going to start is Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, the top two picks. And like I said, I think Bo Nix is going to be better than them, honestly, because one, he has the offensive genius head coach in Sean Payton. Broncos have a better offensive line than the Bears or the Washington Commanders. And three, Patriots have no weapons. We know that. Yes, the Bears have weapons. They have Keenan Allen, who's older. They have Roma Dunze, who's a rookie. Let's see how he transfers to the NFL. DJ Moore is the only solid receiver that's a veteran that's not too old, but he doesn't need to develop. Cole Kmet, that's another one. And maybe DeAndre Swift, who's a running back. But look at the Broncos roster. You got Cortland Sutton, who was a top 3 receiver last year. You got Ryan Reynolds, who was a solid, guy that, he was a security blanket for Jared Goff. The guy would catch anything. I don't really want to name Tim Patrick because we don't know if he's even going to make it through training camp. Knock on wood. I hope he does. Then you got 2 young studs, just like a Roma Dunze, on your roster. You got Marvin Mims, who's a great returner, and you got Troy Franklin, who has chemistry with Bo Nix. So that's probably going to work really well in his favor. Tight end, I'll give it to the Bears. They beat us in that because Cole Kmet's a stud, and we don't even know who our starting tight end is going to be, whether if it's Dulcich or Cole Kmet, or Lucas Kroll, or even Adam Troutman. We don't know. But running backs, come on. Really? They got Swift, and I think Herbert maybe. We got Javonte, we got P. Ryan, we got Estime, you got McLaughlin. You got 4 stud running backs in that backfield right now. I'm good. Like I said, I'll give the Bears the tight end position. But as far as receiver and running backs go and offensive line, the Broncos have a better offense. We really do. Outside of center, you got both your guards, you got both your tackles, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 solid receivers. And honestly, you could probably say 5, little Jordan Humphrey being in the system before. Tight end, it's a question mark. And then running backs, you got the freaking Bears only have 2 solid running backs, Herbert and Swift. The Patriots, Stevenson, that's about it. The Broncos have 4. You got 3 that for 100% are good. Javonte is a great running back. P. Ryan's a good running back out of the backfield, and so is McLaughlin. And then if Estime can turn into something, there you go. So, there's no reason, and I repeat, no reason why Bo Nix should not be the starter already, honestly. I think Sean Payton, if I had to guess what the situation is right now, especially if Sean Payton knows, and everybody knows this, and Sean Payton knows because he's the leader, that if Bo Nix and Jared Stidham were even in OTAs and mandatory minicamp, if they were even, and even like I use that word very, very strongly because I do believe they were even. I don't believe Jared Stidham was a slight bit better. Woo, he had one bigger pass than freaking Bo Nix. That was it. Bo Nix had a big pass to Troy Franklin down the field. We saw it on video. Like people want to act like that wasn't there, like it never happened. It did. To me, they're dead even. And the fact that Bo Nix is a rookie, just got into the system this year, and Jared Stidham is a 3 to 4 year vet. He's already been in this system for a year, and they're that even. Like, and I'm not saying, you know, Stidham needs to be like, you know, he's not Peyton Manning to freak like he makes freaking, Bo Nix look like garbage or nothing. I'm not saying he needs to be like 10 times better, like 1,000 times better than Bo Nix, but he should at least be comfortably above him. Being in the system for a year and being in the league for 3 to 4 years, Stidham should be, sitting comfortably above him. You know, you would expect Bo Nix to be making mistakes, but the fact that, and this is where I talk about the college, like those 61 starts, him being in college, what was it, 5, 6 years, being 24 coming out in the draft, being mature, that's really helping Bo Nix. That is what's helping Bo Nix stay caught up with Stidham at this point. Being a rookie, it's because he had 61 starts. He's mature. He's had a lot of games played, you know. So that's the reason why he's caught up with Stidham. And, he's not like one of these young kids that's, out doing crazy stuff or playing video games like Kyler Murray or something like that. He actually loves ball and he does everything he can to learn and stay on top of it. Like he is a football junkie. All that is what makes Bo Nix even with Stidham right now. Stidham is not better at all, not even slightly better than Bo Nix. They are dead even. And that says more about how good Bo Nix is than how bad Jared Stidham is. I'm not bagging on Stidham by any stretch of the imagination, but that just tells me how good Bo Nix is. Jared Stidham is Jared Stidham. He is who he is. He is who he's going to be, which is a backup, and that's fine. Like we didn't pay him. We paid him last year to be a backup. We paid him last year to be a backup. And that's exactly what he's going to be in Denver this year. Again, as a backup, his last year. Bo Nix needs to be the starter. Like, give him as much playing time, as much reps with the ones as you possibly can in training camp and preseason. So that way, him and the offense are 1,000% ready to go come week one against Seattle. I don't want no errors. I don't want no timing issues. I don't want no, anything like that. I don't want anything to be wrong come week one against Seattle. I want the timing to be down. I want the chemistry to be there. I want Bo Nix to be comfortable and ready to go. I don't want him to have to worry about, oh God, I don't think this will happen anyway, but I don't want Bo Nix, to be out there, not have the chemistry, not have the timing, not have, the what's the word, like the confidence, like just being out there on the field with the guys and having those live game reps, even in preseason, having those live game reps, like he needs that. He needs all the preseason reps to get timing and everything and chemistry down with the receivers. And then preseason, that's actual game. Like the games don't matter. Yeah, they in the score box, the standings, the games don't matter, but it does matter for getting out there, knowing that you're in a live game, and you're getting that timing down, you're getting that chemistry down, you're used to those big guys chasing you. Like it makes no sense not to name Bo Nix the starter. None. Especially if this is an evaluation year. And you want to find out what Nix is sooner rather than later. That's what you want to find out. Because if Bo Nix does wind up not being the guy, which once again, I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think Bo Nix is going to be the guy for years to come. He's going to be our future quarterback. He'll be fine. But in Sean Payton's eyes, which I believe he does think somewhat like I do, otherwise I don't think he would have drafted him. or he would have moved up. He would have sacrificed something if he really did. Like he wouldn't have like even with the Falcons taking Penix and forcing the Broncos' hand to take Bo Nix at 12, like he still could have traded up. Like if he didn't think Bo Nix is the guy and whatever, he could have traded up and took a JJ. Like JJ, Drake May, and I know they said the Broncos big board, but they know they weren't going to Caleb Williams. So, but that's the thing. They just need to start Bo Nix. Just start him, let him get all the reps, let him get the time and the chemistry down with his offense, and not just his receivers, his tight ends and his running backs, but his offensive line. The offensive line has got to get used to it. They have to get used to who's going to be under center. Granted, yes, like maybe not Mike McGlinchey, maybe not Ben Powers, but Quinn Miners and Garrett Bowles have been through a multitude of quarterbacks, so maybe they'll be okay. But like Powers and Powers and McGlinchey, it's better just to get that freaking quarterback out there that you know is going to be the starter and just keep him out there. Keep Bo Nix out there. Let him build chemistry with that offensive line. And also, this could possibly make the center position a lot more easier to, judge too. Because if you just name Bo Nix the starter, and you can find out real quick if Forsyth is the guy. Like if you give Bo Nix the job now, and he's constantly getting reps with, you put Forsyth out there, you could see that chemistry built. Like, I mean, it's there. They had it in Oregon for a year, but you can see if it's going to work. If not, then you still got enough time in the offseason to see which center you're going to go with, in case, Forsyth and Bo don't pair well together. So that's what I think. They just need to name Bo Nix the starter. Stop waiting. Just go do it and be done with it. It's ridiculous to keep dragging this out. Like the only main reason why I can see Sean Payton maybe dragging out who the starter is, maybe behind the doors he knows who the starter is. He's like, yeah, Bo Nix is the guy. He's going to be the guy all through training camp, all through preseason, and going into week one. He's going to be the guy. But maybe Sean Payton's not saying nothing. And this is 4D chess move. And I've said this earlier this offseason. Maybe he's not going to name the starter until like that week, right before week one, just to keep Seattle guessing. Oh my God, is it going to be Jarrett Stidham? Is it going to be Bo Nix? Could it possibly even be Zach Wilson? To keep them off, guard and maybe keep them, a little not ready for it. You know what I mean? That way the Seahawks are not going to really be prepared, and that could kind of throw them off starting week one. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe on this video, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.